Did you really think you could lie about Caitlin Clark for a whole year and keep your broadcasting job? That's the question nobody needed to ask Sheryl Swoopes, because we just got our answer. She's been officially removed from all WNBA broadcasts for the 2025 season. The firing isn't just about one bad take or a single slip-up. This was the culmination of a calculated campaign against the WNBA's newest star, and the league finally decided enough was enough. Want to know what really went down behind the scenes? In this video, we'll break down what happened, how she's doing damage control, and why she eventually lost her job. Are you ready? Let's go. I won't be missing you broadcasting the games, because when you broadcasted the games, it was so hard for you to mention Caitlin Clark. How are you up there talking about, you can't mention any, oh, the Indiana Fever are doing this, oh, Kelsey Mitchell and the Indiana Fever, oh, Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell and those girls are doing, oh, you has such the hardest time mentioning Caitlin Clark's name. Why? I don't get it. I really don't know. Did you know Sheryl Swoopes has a pattern of getting fired? Before her recent broadcasting drama, Swoopes established a troubling track record that stretches back years. While her Hall of Fame playing career brought her well-deserved accolades as one of the WNBA's founding stars, her post-playing career reveals a consistent pattern of problematic behavior. The warning signs were blinding at Loyola University in Chicago. In July 2016, Swoopes was fired as head coach following a mass exodus of players that should have raised red flags for anyone considering hiring her again. What coach loses 10 out of 12 returning players in a single season? That's not normal turnover. That's a 5-alarm fire in your program. Former Loyola player Kate Sohn didn't mince words about Swoopes' coaching abilities. Just because you're a great player doesn't mean you're a great coach. She seems to thrive off drama. Wherever she goes, the drama is. Other players described an emotionally volatile environment where Swoopes would cry during games and practices, threaten scholarships, and inappropriately share personal information. Great players don't automatically make great mentors, and Swoopes exemplifies this disconnect perfectly. The Lauren Hibbard situation particularly stands out. According to Hibbard, Swoopes pressured her to sign a medical hardship form, effectively ending her athletic career, with false promises that she'd remain with the team as a manager. When Hibbard later discovered she wouldn't even travel with the team, the betrayal was complete. This manipulation triggered formal complaints and ultimately contributed to Swoopes' dismissal. Fast forward to 2024, and we see the same dismissive, unsupportive behavior directed at Caitlin Clark. During her now infamous February appearance on Gil's Arena, Swoopes couldn't even get basic facts straight. She claimed Clark was in her 5th college season. Wrong, it was her 4th. And that she took 40 shots per game, wildly inaccurate as Clark averaged 22.7. These weren't innocent mistakes but seemed calculated to diminish Clark's achievements. Even more telling was Swoopes' dismissive tone when discussing Clark's record-breaking performances, saying, "So, is it truly a broken record? I don't know. I don't think so." When pressed about Clark's WNBA potential, Swoopes declared, "Will Caitlin Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now immediately?" Absolutely not. Not going to happen. The contempt was impossible to miss. You asked me back, Caitlin, if you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it. Okay, right. So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year, and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record? These weren't isolated incidents, but part of a year-long campaign that revealed more about Swoopes than it did about Clark. The pattern is clear. When others succeed or challenge her authority, Swoopes responds with hostility rather than support. Whether it's college players transferring en masse or a rising star breaking records, Swoopes seems incapable of celebrating others' success without feeling threatened. This toxic pattern ultimately caught up with her at the Dallas Wings, where her commentary became too controversial, even for a league that typically stands by its legends. The consistent threads connecting her Loyola firing to her broadcasting removal paint a picture of someone who's never learned to adapt or grow from criticism. So what really happened with Dallas last year? And then obviously you guys remember last year when Dallas had to pretty much say, hey, you can't broadcast Indiana Fever game after the little comments and things you had the game before. or something like that. Yeah, I believe it was that. And Nancy Lieberman was the one who pretty much confronted Sheryl Swoopes about the whole situation and let her know, like, hey, you know, we gotta keep it this, we gotta keep it that, keep it about basketball. The Wings broadcast controversy wasn't just about Caitlin Clark. It was about Swoopes making enemies in all the wrong places. When basketball royalty starts publicly calling out one of their own, you know something unprecedented is happening behind the scenes. That's exactly what happened when Swoopes found herself in the crosshairs of two of basketball's most influential voices, Stephen A. Smith and Nancy Lieberman. Stephen A. Smith, never one to hold back his opinions, didn't just disagree with Swoopes. He dismantled her credibility on national television. During one particularly scathing segment, Smith directly questioned Swoopes' motives for consistently failing to acknowledge Clark's contributions to the Indiana Fever's success. "Do you have any idea how that makes you look?" Smith challenged, his voice rising with each word. "How are you going to ignore Caitlin Clark?" What made Smith's rebuke so damaging wasn't just his massive platform, but his pointed suggestion that Swoopes' silence about Clark was deliberate and unprofessional, especially considering her basketball expertise should have made Clark's impact impossible to overlook. But picking a fight with Stephen A. was just the beginning of Swoopes' professional implosion. Nancy Lieberman, a broadcasting colleague and former friend of Swoopes, took things a step further. After hearing Swoopes' comments about Clark, Lieberman reportedly called Swoopes directly to confront her about the inaccuracies in her statements. That conversation evidently went poorly. So poorly that Lieberman would later confirm their relationship was pretty much done. As a result, the fallout was swift and humiliating. In a twist that couldn't have been scripted better for maximum embarrassment, Lieberman ended up replacing Swoopes on the Dallas Wings broadcasts. This wasn't just a personnel change. It was a public statement about who had credibility in basketball circles. Lieberman's willingness to challenge Swoopes and then literally take her job highlighted just how far Swoopes had fallen professionally. That's what Nancy was all about. She was keeping it very, hey, let's bring this women's game let's bring it all together. Let's grow this thing together. And the question was talking about how older people or older players in the league, pretty much going about what's going on in the league. And Nancy knows Caitlin Clark is the biggest. She's got the eyes, she's got the fans. Let's not try to sink it. Let's try to get on the boat with her, and let's grow the game. These high-profile confrontations did more than just damage Swoopes' reputation with fans. They isolated her within the professional basketball community. When figures like Smith and Lieberman publicly question your integrity, networks and organizations take notice. For the Dallas Wings and their broadcast partner, these feuds likely confirmed what viewer complaints had already suggested. That liability assessment turned out to be the final nail in Swoopes' broadcasting coffin. But the truly shocking part isn't just that she was removed from Fever games. The Wings erased her completely from their 2025 broadcast lineup. If you look at the statement from the Dallas Wings announcing their 2025 team, glaringly absent is Swoopes. It looks like the Dallas Wings have left off Mrs. Sheryl Swoopes on the broadcasting team for the 2025 season. If you guys remember, Sheryl Swoopes, she was on the broadcasting team last year, right? This wasn't just about protecting Caitlin Clark. It was about protecting the Wings brand and viewer experience. The decision to remove Swoopes from all games, not just Fever matchups, suggests the organization recognized a fundamental problem with her broadcasting approach that extended beyond a single-player rivalry. Her persistent negativity and factual errors had transformed from a minor irritation into a genuine business liability as viewership for women's basketball continued to soar. What happened next might be the most telling part of this saga. Suddenly, after a year of criticism and controversy, Swoopes appeared on ESPN praising the very player she'd spent months criticizing. How much stronger Caitlin got in the off-season. You know she was in the gym working on her game, Swoopes gushed, adding, "This Indiana Fever team, they have put the pieces together in this off-season, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do." Fans weren't buying this dramatic reversal for a second. Social media exploded with skepticism and mockery. Comments on ESPNW's post ranged from, "Oh, how she is changing her tune now," to, "Is Swoopes okay? She said something nice about CC instead of bashing with a lie." Others were more direct. She admits defeat, and I can't imagine how many months of therapy it took her to say Caitlin's name without a scowl. I kept on saying it. I said, Sheryl Swoopes, you are going to find yourself out of the media so fast by how you're, I guess by how you're moving, how you're talking on other players, talking on other people's podcasts. Even Stephen A. Smith couldn't resist taking a shot at Swoopes' sudden conversion, pointing out that her previous silence on Clark's talents seemed deeply personal. What she's not realizing is that when she doesn't state the obvious, it's automatically going to be assumed that it's something personal, because we know you know the basketball game, the game of basketball too well, to ignore the kind of things that she's ignoring when it comes to Caitlin Clark. The same Indiana Fever that Swoopes spent a year criticizing has transformed into a legitimate title contender right before our eyes. What started with that late season 5-game winning streak when Clark began finding her rhythm was just the appetizer. The main course is being served in 2025, and basketball fans everywhere are taking notice. Pundits are now ranking them as at least third best in the league. Indiana's front office has orchestrated perhaps the most impressive roster transformation in recent WNBA history. The additions of 3-time champion Natasha Howard and 2-time champion DeWanna Bonner aren't just good moves. They're the kind of strategic chess pieces that elevate a team from playoff participant to championship threat. Bonner, despite being 36, remains a force, averaging 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1.2 blocks in 40 games last year with Connecticut. Howard brings defensive excellence as a former Defensive Player of the Year winner, perfectly complementing the Fever's young core. And let's not forget Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, and Brianna Turner, rounding up a solid bench. What makes these veteran acquisitions so brilliant is how they fit around Clark, Boston, Hall, and Mitchell. The Fever's foundation of young talent needed exactly what Howard and Bonner provide: championship experience, defensive versatility, and the leadership that only comes from having been in pressure cooker playoff situations. This roster now has the perfect balance of youth and experience, similar to how championship teams like the 2022 Aces blended veteran savvy with emerging stars. Clark's trajectory heading into year 2 should terrify the rest of the league. You know those last 13 games of 2024 when the Fever went 8-5? That wasn't a fluke. It was Clark finally adjusting to the pro game. With a full off-season to build strength and refine her game, we're likely seeing just the beginning of what she can accomplish at the professional level. Even Swoopes herself couldn't deny the Fever's potential any longer, recently stating, "The team I feel made the biggest moves, maybe even the best moves, that would be the Indiana Fever." I think the Indiana Fever went from being in the playoffs last season to potentially winning a championship. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. When your harshest critic is suddenly singing your praises, you know something special is brewing. The championship window for Indiana isn't just cracking open, it's being thrown wide open. With Clark surrounded by Boston's interior dominance, Mitchell's scoring punch, Hull's hustle, and now the championship DNA of the new free agent acquisitions, the Fever have constructed a roster that can challenge any team in the league. The contrast couldn't be more striking. While Swoopes is desperately trying to salvage her broadcasting career with transparent damage control, the Indiana Fever are building something authentic and potentially historic. The same player and team that Swoopes spent a year trying to tear down might just be hoisting a trophy while she watches from home. What we're witnessing with Swoopes' firing isn't just workplace drama. It's the WNBA making a statement about its future. As Nancy Lieberman perfectly put it, we should embrace people who take us to another level. The league is finally prioritizing accuracy and growth over protecting legends whose actions undermine the sport's popularity. While Swoopes scrambles with her sudden praise of Clark and the Fever, the basketball world has moved on. The WNBA's unprecedented growth demands voices that elevate rather than diminish its rising stars. In the end, true basketball legends are measured not just by their on-court achievements, but by how they lift up the next generation. Something Swoopes clearly never understood.